Hey there everybody, and welcome to another Friday Night Spotlight brought to you by Jones Ford Buick GMC, your hometown dealer for more than 50 years. Well, we have finally reached the final week of the regular season for our 4A and 5A schools. But real quickly, I do have to point out our 2A playoff team in Sequoia Pathway is out. They lost to Benson last week, 49-7. So we are back to our regular programming, I guess you can say, with this Friday Night Spotlight. And just getting into things, our game of the week this week is Phoenix Trevor Browne going up against Apache Junction. Now, I feel like this is a really good matchup for Apache Junction as a season finale and looking ahead into the playoffs. Trevor Browne is a 6A school. They are currently 6-3, and there's a lot of similarities between this team and how Apache Junction runs its offense. David, what are you expecting from this game?
Yeah, you mentioned right at the start, Maria, that this is a really interesting matchup because, you know, Apache Junction will come in as a 4A team, and they're playing a 6A team in Brown. The Bruins are like you said, they have a decent record, but this will be a fairly evenly matched teams going up against each other for me. And the Prospectors have put together a really good season. Like I said, they're 6-2 this year, and they've come off of great performances from their quarterback, Gavin Lamangelo, over 1,500 passing yards and 13 passing touchdowns. And to go along with that, he also got 11 touchdowns on the ground, which is also a great performance from that as well. Then you got running back Isaiah Savoy, spectacular season so far, 1,000 yards rushing, averaging about 8.6 yards a carry, 11 scores on the ground, and most impressively, he's doing all this while being a sophomore. So not only is he producing now, he can produce for the next 2 years in his upperclassman years as a junior and senior. So this is a great, well-rounded prospector team, and this is going to be a big challenge for AJ, though, going up against the higher level 6A team. But the Prospectors will have to lock up defensively and look out for Ralph Bernard for Brown for the Bruins. He's a junior with 9.5 sacks on the year, so he's going to be a huge force that the offensive line is going to have to compete with on every single play for the entire night on Friday. I'll be covering this game on Friday. I'll be out at AJ. It's going to be a great game, and I'm really excited to watch this one. I think it's going to be really fun.
Okay, so now to talk about the counterparts against Apache Junction in Trevor Browne. Quarterback Alex Rivera has over 1,700 passing yards, a 61% completion rate, 23 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. At running back, you have CJ Greer, over 1,000 rushing yards, 13 touchdowns. And Rivera's go-to receiver is Dawood Montejano, 783 receiving yards and 13 touchdowns. Very similar to what Apache Junction can do with Lamangelo, Savoy, and Gary Garcia. But, you know, David mentioned it. Defensively, the Bruins have, I think, a little more ability to cause some havoc for the Prospectors. He mentioned Ralph Bernard, but also you have Nathaniel King, who's also tied with 54 tackles for the lead for the Bruins, and also sophomore Deshaun Mintz. He has 4 interceptions for 61 yards. Lamangelo isn't that what's the word I'm looking for here? Isn't really an interception throwing guys. He hits his targets very well, but he does have 3 interceptions so far this year. If there is some kind of miscommunications, look for the Bruins to capitalize on those mistakes and make the Prospectors pay. David, is there anything else you would like to add?
Yeah, like I said, I think this game's going to be really fun to watch, and I'm really interested to see how Apache Junction rises to the occasion to face this 6A team. We've said that they're pretty evenly matched together, but this could still be a very exciting game. In my eyes, this is either going to be a very tightly contested game, or it could be a blowout. It could go either way for either team. I'm hoping for a really tight and fun game, so we'll see what happens on Friday night.
All right, and now transitioning over to our picks portion. David, what game do you have your eye on this week?
I got the Broncos, Post and Butte, taking on Arcadia this week, and this really is kind of a region title game at this point. Although Arcadia is only 5-4, they're 2-0 in region play, so they're 2 region teams in the Black Canyon region of 4A, so they're going to be going up against each other, and whoever wins basically will take the region and get that automatic bid in the playoffs. But Post and Butte's going into the playoffs automatically no matter what. They've had incredible years. They're 7-2 right now, and the guys like Drew Dalmasio and Octavius Joe are always going to get the spotlight and get the well-deserved attention, but a guy that I really want to point out from last week's game who had a big performance for them was sophomore Ja'Kai Robertson. The defensive back basically had a coming-out party for him. He's a really young guy, but he had 2 interceptions on the night, which were a really big factor for them being able to keep the lead that they had, their 28-6 win over Combs last week. So Ja'Kai Robinson is definitely a guy to look out for if he gets some more playing time going down the road with this team. So I really like what they do on defensively. I love what they do offensively with the big running style with both their mobile quarterback in Dalmasio, who is a big running guy. He had 2 rushing touchdowns in the game last week against Combs. Same thing with Octavius Joe, had 2 rushing touchdowns of his own. So this game on Friday, I think the Broncos are on too much of a hot streak right now, and I think they really have their game plan dialed down, and I think they have a really good mindset of what they want to do. They are very, very hyped and very excited to play this region game. They're bringing this region title mentality into this game Friday night, and I think that's going to carry them over the edge along with their great talent. I'm taking the Broncos to win this one.
All right, now my game to watch this week is going to be Combs hosting Tempe. Combs is 3-6, and Tempe, got to make sure I get the word correct this week. Tempe is winless. They are 0-7. Last week, both of these teams got a loss. David mentioned it. Combs lost to Poston Butte, 28-6. Tempe lost 41-7 to Apache Junction. Now, big story here is Combs will be without their star quarterback in Tanner Hale. He was out last week against Poston Butte. He was seen limping along the sidelines with a brace on his knee. It's unlikely he will be available for this game. And that leaves Blake Lyons and Chase Theobald to take over at the quarterback position. Last week against the Broncos, they combined for 56 yards and 2 interceptions. But overall, this whole season, they've only had 12 passing attempts combined. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do with a little more weeks, another week of practice under their belt and just being ready to go up against Buffalo. Last week, their ground game was pretty much handled by Michael Davenport and Connor Wiles. 1 rushing touchdown and 111 yards. Big key here is if Combs can control the clock, they have a very good chance at winning this game. That's what happened with Poston Butte's game last week. They limited the Broncos to 28 yards because the Broncos only had like 2 possessions in the whole second half. So if Combs can score early and then just control the clock, this game is theirs. That pretty much does it for this week's Friday Night Spotlight. Be sure to check out PinalCentral.com for all of your football game coverage.